Good morning, Bernie. Thanks for tuning in to the Boerne Brew here. My name is Jeff Flinn. I'm the managing editor at the Boerne Star. Welcome for coming into Boerne Radio 103.9, spending your morning with us. We got a special one here. It's very timely. We've had a week of focus on our trades and our young people who go forth and do what they're going to do. I've got Dorman Vick here from Champion High School, runs the welding program. Got Michael Etheridge here. He runs everything. If you don't know Michael,
no.
Yeah, if you've seen a DOS Festival parade, if you've been to DOS Greenhouse, he's deeply involved in that. He can tell us some of the things. And the gentleman,
Kendall Gentleman,
that's his too. But we're here for Vic. We're just going to call him Vic, folks. And
who was the Kendall Gentleman a few months ago?
Yeah, right. He was on the cover. He was a Kendall Gentleman.
We appreciate you, Mr. Flinn, having us come out and having me on the show. It's an honor to be able to address the current shape of our vocational education in the state of Texas. It's a very exciting time we're living in.
Well, you know, just like anything else, the worker shortages out there are rampant. And the holes your kids are filling are traditionally void. I mean, we have a void of plumbers, we have a void of electricians, we have a void of welding, we have a void of people picking up where people are retiring.
We're in worse shape right now than we were in World War II.
Really?
The difference in World War II was when you go back, we recognized we had a problem when we started advertising and we started making it more lucrative for people to go into the trades. We're past that now. We have more people living here in America than we did when we were in World War II. And it's critical that we put our kids' hands back to work. We've reached a national security issue. We're watching our government not be able to balance a budget at the moment. Rest assured, our enemies are watching really closely right now. We should be focusing on building our infrastructure of our power grid systems, our AI networks that demand so much power to be able to produce them. That's the real war right now we're in. And I think most people don't understand that war is active at the current moment.
Because if we don't fill it, somebody else will.
Absolutely. And it's all of our industry. For too many years, college was our North Star. That was our direction. Now it's time that industry stand up, stand loud and proud, and start demanding that what industry is needing, that we're producing within our school systems whenever these kids start young. And the answer is starting young with them.
Graduated high school in 1978. There was a section of the high school called the Shop Rats.
Right.
You know, you had your brainiacs who were the top 10, and then you had your shop rats who were usually at the other end of the high school. That has changed dramatically. Maybe it's now going to be an honor. I am a shop rat. Because give me an example. I know you have some. Speak to the shop rat idea of a young man, 23, 24, 25, was out there making twice as much money as I do in a year because he's made his own way.
Absolutely. Really what we're talking about is the forgotten children.
Right.
We do an incredible job with our athletic kids. We do an incredible job focusing in on our AP dual credit kids. But there's a big void of forgotten kids. And I would argue that vocational education is for all kids, every kid. It doesn't matter your gender. There's something about when you put these things that are attached to the end of our arms to work, and the pride, the ability to stand strong and speak with more confidence. It's not a brainwashing to go into the trades.
Right.
The end product, if we've done it correctly, is we don't have a national shortage for electricians, plumbing, HVAC, welders. We're producing doctors that know how to build a birdhouse. Imagine that, right? Yeah. Is the problem solving. We love in our society anymore to have meetings on meetings, and we surround ourselves in groups because we're too scared to make decisions. You mentioned that both of y'all were before the 1983 crisis that was really the defining line of Ross Perot killing vocational education in the state of Texas. When you look prior to 1983, vocational education was pretty close to the top.
Really?
I would argue it's never been where it really needs to be. It needs to be the front seat because all of us that are addicted to civilized life, we're not sitting in here under candlelight. We love the comforts that our trades give us, right? So we need to wrap our arms around that full tilt and bring it back bigger and stronger than we've ever seen before.
For those of us like me who struggle when it's time to switch out a light switch,
right?
You know, I have every tool in the garage lined up. It takes me, I said, okay, nobody touch the power. Just go to a movie or something. Go out of the house while I try to get this done. Same thing with oil change. Last time I changed my oil, pick up the phone and call somebody. And they're the ones that are making the $79, $80, whatever it costs to change oil. We've become a service-oriented, and we've come to depend on those folks. Plumbing, pick up the phone and call. And that's where a lot of our money can be made or go. And tell me how you bring your kids, open their eyes to say, hey, you should be here. You need to be in this class because the end product is where you need to be.
Well, I believe that when vocational education is done correctly, it is a natural draw at that point. Once you put kids' hands to work, bell to bell, and you start producing items, the fruits of your labor, you're going to have a line that looks longer than Walmart's return line after Christmas. I mean, the kids want to be where successful things are happening.
Right.
And we have all the tools at our disposal. Here in Boerne ISD, we're lucky to have Dr. Kraft leading us. I feel blessed to have Ms. Binky being my principal that understands what we're talking about right now. They believe and they support these missions for our kids. So that's exciting. And I like to look at things optimistically that America's ready for this movement. I think one too many people have paid thousands to change a ceiling fan, maybe hundreds, if not 1,000 to get the toilet replaced. And the price of all this is going up, which is waking people up to realize there's not enough people out there. I'm waiting for my custom home and used to get it done in less than a year. Now it's taken maybe up to 2 years to get it done. So I think it's never been a better time right now. And what's exciting for our current program is that the Army is getting bigger. We've got some major players that have wrapped their arms around this program, like Governor Rick Perry, General Leroy Sisco. The list is on, and it just keeps going, from Bill Goldberg locally here to Jesse James, all the television shows to highlight this thing. And just last Friday, General Sisco brought Marty Berry. Well, Marty Berry employs 5,000 tradesmen and women in Corpus Christi. There's no bigger name than Marty Berry on the Texas Gulf Coast. And he came in and wrapped his arms fully around the program and ready to hire our kids right out of high school, like Peter Holt is, for $85,000. That's more than 90% of college graduates.
Right. How many kids are in the Ed program, and do you have a waiting list of kids waiting to get in?
We do, and we have waiting lists for kids to get in, and that's a safety issue. There's only so many kids one person can watch. And to answer your first question, over 120 kids are in the program. A standard teacher runs 6 of 8. Every year I'm run 7 of 8. Only get one conference every other day, and my classes are completely full. And my retention rate is greater than 90%. So once a kid comes in first year, 90% of those kids will make it all the way to be completers and stay with me for their whole journey.
How long have you been doing it?
Oh, Lord, this is our
Michael Etheridge was one of your students.
Right? I was in his very first class here in Boerne ISD.
There you go.
Which that was we're in our 21st year of starting the program, and I had 1 year prior to that at Clark High School.
And what was it like back in 2000?
2005, 6, yeah. That was my senior year at Boerne High School, before there was a champion. Right. And they announced that they were going to be adding this welding program, and a whole bunch of us got really excited. I had never done anything in the ag mechanics or even in the ag side of things, really. I was more of a wood shop and computers guy, and so I spent a lot of time with Mr. Kittrell back then, Delton Kittrell. But then we announced...
What a legend he was. Changed a whole lot of kids' lives.
Changed my life. Just an incredible person. I miss him dearly. But then they announced they were going to do this welding program, and I was like, this is awesome. I want in. It was my senior year, and I saw that it was a 2-period class, whereas everything else was 1 period, so I know I could kill a lot of hours right there. My best friend John was enrolling, and so we said, we're doing this, and we got in. And it was really fun that first year because it was like we built a program. We had to build half the equipment for the shop. We had to build carts for our welders. We had to build stands for our welding hoods and gloves. We had to build welding tables so that we could work. And so the first half of the year was that.
So you were literally building the program.
Yeah. Not just figuratively, literally, and it was so exciting. We're just these testosterone-addled kids running around with no clue what we're doing with, I think, a 18-year-old teacher back then,
Thanks for the compliment.
And back then he seemed way older than us, but it was wild. And then, as the year progressed, we finally got into where we could start building some projects, and we broke up into teams, and we built, 5 or 6 projects that year, big projects, and we took them all over the state to contests. We went to San Antonio, Houston, San Angelo, Waco.
That's cool.
All over the state, and everywhere we went, we were winning. We were winning best in state. We were winning, reserve and grand champion awards.
And you're like, God, why didn't I do this when I'm a sophomore and a junior?
Why didn't they offer it? Yeah. But what was crazy was the quality of what we were building back then was impressive. I mean, it spurred the program along. It gave it the spark it needed to keep going. But what they've been able to graduate this program into now, man, It is so far beyond what we could have done back then. It is incredible. Just the way that the community has, like Vic says, wrapped their arms around the program and built it up over the years. And then the knowledge and the wisdom that Vic's been able to gain over the years, already coming into the education sphere, being an experienced and talented fabricator and welder, and being able to educate students on that is something special. But I want to expand on that briefly. Vic teaches, welding and fabrication as the skill in his class, right? Mm-hmm. But the students learn way more than that.
Right.
Vic is teaching these kids not just how to be a good welder and fabricator, but how to be a good person. I've been in some of his classes since then when he's teaching these kids, and it's just amazing the way he can interact with them and the life lessons they take away. Like, they learn how to walk out of that classroom with their head high, their back strong, with a skill that they can rely on for the rest of their lives.
Right.
But they also know how to interact with other people in a respectful way.
Sure.
What's neat about it, 21 years goes quick. Like, really quick. I look back and I can remember when Ethridge was in my class. I can remember all those kids, and it seems like yesterday. But where the program started off was we clearly defined where we were going. We put best in the state on everything, and they rose to the occasion. We went to the contest. We did all that. We've won over 21 state titles and won 10 districts. Everything that we've won has been great, and all through the ag mechanics. But what was even better was in 2016, what a phone call did by a local hero, Donald Burton. He was ex-Green Beret, left quadriplegic after an injury. And what God used Donald for was to change our whole direction, and we started doing more community projects, more for the American hero. And that's something that's not written in a textbook. Mm-hmm, and that's when the introduction came that it's time that we use vocational education, and I'm going to very carefully say this. It's time we use vocational education to put the white back in the red, white, and blue of America. Right. They took the white out and they made it a red and blue thing. This isn't a red and blue thing. This is about teaching our kids to love their self, to love their neighbor, to love their country, and to give back.
Right.
We're one of the fastest growing. We're the best place in the state because our numbers of growth show that. Everybody's coming here. So I saw these kids that moved here. They're only going to have one high school they graduate, one hometown. And when they start building cemetery entrance for the Boerne Cemetery, and they honor our German heritage when they do that, and they build mobile hunting blinds for an American hero, and they get to witness and look at that hero in the eye and see that their work changed that life. And we figured out a recipe that we don't have to go to show anymore to chase a ribbon. The ribbon is every kid in the program gets to give back because they want to.
The River Road project.
Yes, sir. The fish structures for River Road that had never been done. The fish structures for Boerne Lake, that's another never been done before. So I'm so proud that these kids are taking the direction that we're giving them. They're going on to be the next leaders of this state, of this city. It keeps me going to see students like Michael that come back to the community, start a small company, growing that company, getting involved and giving back to the community. That's what we have to do more of. If we can spread it faster than the coronavirus went around, we're good. We're good as a nation. But I say that because I go back. It's a national security issue right now. We have to look at vocational education at a greater rate than we look at anything else. Our kids want it. They succeed. There's pockets of success when the Commissioner of Education and the Governor, Perry, had me going around the state to do the video earlier this spring. I saw programs around the state that are incredible. Mm-hmm. Problem is there ain't enough of them. We need more of them everywhere, and we need it fast.
Right. Folks, I'm Jeff Flinn, managing editor at the Boerne Star. We're here at the Boerne Brew today. I've got two special guests here. We're talking about the state of Voed in America, and we're bringing it home here to Champion High School. Michael Etheridge started out at Voed at Boerne High School. Were you a Boerne High School graduate?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
2006.
And we've got Dorman Vick, or as everybody just says, Vic. Everybody knows him as Vic. He's it was Ag when I was in school.
Ag Mech welding teacher at Samuel V. Champion High School.
There we go.
Don't forget Samuel.
This is Saturday, November 8th. Yesterday we had a press conference about the straight to the trades ownership. Talk about that a little bit. That's taking what you just talked about. It's one thing to start a business, is to have skill. It's another thing to know how to have a business.
Well, it excites me because not only is this vision of Michael Etheridge, and then Doss Greenhouse, and then the Boerne Chamber of Commerce, and then the Kendall County Economical Development Group.
EDC, yeah.
All get together and come up with this vision of like, hey, we make our kids pick these different pathways. We want to bring this into play to where we can give these trades kids a vision that they can go own their own companies. And it was like, holy smokes, we just landed in the gold mine on this one, right? This has potential to change the landscape across this whole state, if not the nation. Just in week 3, I guess we are now, of this 11-week course, these kids are loving it. They're thriving on it. You can see a sparkle in their eye that you didn't see before, that all of a sudden it's like, man, more people are believing in me, and they believe I can own the company, not just make $85,000 a year, but I can own it.
And they take that and they're applying it to 16, 17, and 18-year-olds. Previously, it might be 20, 25, 30, 40-year-olds who have a business idea. You know, football is life. Life is football to me. And they're both equally complicated or equally simple. You go somewhere where there's a good kid, a good player, and he's in 5th or 6th grade, those high school coaches are watching him because he's going to be their senior quarterback. This is doing it just reverse, where we're saying, hey, we're going back and hitting these 17 and 18-year-olds because they're going to be our 30-year-olds soon. And we'd rather have our 30-year-olds out there making a ton of money and have their business operating than having to come to us bankrupt because they didn't know what they were doing.
I think it's the Nick Saban approach. If you're going to play football in this equation, we got to look at Nick. To me, the greatest of all,
Coach of all
is
time.
Don't look at the school board. Look at what you do and do everything you do correctly. So this is yet again adding one more bar element to our trades kids to say, you know what, here was where the bar was before. We're fixing to raise the bar a little bit higher. And don't look at anything else besides that bar that's put in front of you. And when you watch these kids elevate themselves to that bar, you know we're changing kids' lives in a very positive way. And that this tsunami is going to take over and change everything, and I believe give us brighter days moving forward.
You mentioned the 11-week course. Tell me a little bit about that.
So far within this, Andrew Flippo, I believe I'm saying his last name correctly, that has... Michael, help me out. His foundation is...
He has Hope Builds Life.
Hope Builds Life, that's correct. This is the pilot program, right? We're hoping that this takes off and goes everywhere after this first 11-week trial basis, that it takes off. And so it's given these kids they have to develop a business on their own. He starts implicating like, hey, advertising, marketing, you know, from borrowing money, I mean, the whole gamut. And then at the end, there's going to be, during CCMR week, which is in February, these kids are going to pitch their ideas to local business owners through DOS Greenhouse.
Cool.
Then there's actually going to be money awarded at the end for the winning team, and the winning team is going to go on to be able to have support and help through DOS Greenhouse
to make that come true.
Yeah, on phase 2 there, once the kids make it through the pitch, we'll identify the top performers, the ones that we think are really serious about starting their own businesses, and then we're going to be able to give them a scholarship membership at DOS Greenhouse. So now, outside of school, they'll have resources, including space to come work. If they need to sit down in a business environment and think about their work and do their work, we'll be bringing in mentors, and we'll be putting on workshops for these kids, all to help them continue to build their businesses.
Are these all seniors or juniors, sophomores, seniors, whatever?
So it's 24 seniors that are practicum students of mine that have been with me the whole time, that are the first students doing this. The greater vision is that by next year we can implicate this at Boerne High School through their AgMech welding program and continue to grow this vision as one Boerne ISD ag mechanics vision of being able to grow our students.
Right. Run with it. Run long and run wide, right?
Right, exactly. And our juniors are watching this because I have juniors in that class that are in the shop with me whenever the entrepreneurship, and they're like, oh, they're hungry to want to get that same thing because they see the excitement of our seniors.
I was going to ask that very question. When Michael was a senior, there's had to be kids come behind him saying, we want to do that too.
Yeah.
You know, and they're watching your every step. Just like your kids watch parents, you know, our kids are watching everything we do. Those sophomores, the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors are watching these seniors saying, I want a piece of that action.
Well, and I think that's the coolest thing. When you do vocational education correctly, it's a family, not a program, number one. We keep calling this a program, but whenever you have long tenure in one position, you continually raise that bar. The love of the kids that have come through the program continually make that program grow. That's uniquely cool about vocational education. I saw it down the road at Clark High School under Larry Waltisberger that taught there for 27 years, and Larry had love. I mean, it was a program, but it was love that kept it going all the way till Larry retired. That's what I've had the privilege of seeing is we've had so many kids come through the program that have gone on to be business owners. Some local right here in Kendall County, quite a few, a lot of them actually, that have gone on to be successful in businesses. So appreciative that Ethridge had saw that and came up with this vision to say, let's support and let's help these kids get there at a faster rate. And hey, let's catch some of these kids that didn't have enough self-confidence to believe they could do it to begin with.
Michael, how long did it take to knock on doors to get these folks in line?
You know, it happened really quickly, actually. Earlier this year, I don't know what spurred me to start thinking about it, but I know a lot of these students that Vic talks about that have started their own businesses and have become very successful very quickly. And I saw that, and I saw the dire need for more tradesmen in the U.S. You know, we talked a minute ago. For every 5 tradesmen that retire, only 2 are entering the workforce. You know, we're 500,000 electricians short in this country right now. And then I was listening to a podcast the other day. I don't remember if it was Sean Ryan's or if it was Joe Lonsdale's, but he had somebody on there, and they said that at the rate that AI is growing, AI and the data centers it requires are going to consume 100% of the electricity that we generate today by like 2030 or 2035. That's around the corner, you know, and in order for us to scale the electricity generation that we need, we have to act now. We're already behind the curve, you know, and so even if we started building now, are we going to be able to catch up? And so it's not just electricians that make an electricity generation plant operate. It's everybody. We need welders, electricians. We need plumbers. We need all the tradesmen are going to be required. And that's just for electricity generation, not to mention new houses, new everything, roads. How are we going to handle all of that?
Let me ask you a question, Vic. When you scope kids coming into the program, how do you sell this to 5th and 6th graders and say, hey, college is fine. You want to be a lawyer or a doctor, that's fine. But if you want to come out ready to work.
Look, this is the recipe that Mike Rowe's been needing in his pitch, because there's no bigger voice than Mike Rowe nationally, right, to the trades. We have to bring this back all the way down to middle schools for sure. We have to have basic shop class. Call it nothing more than basic shop class. How do you build a birdhouse, a gumball machine? Right here in Boerne ISD, we had Roger Arnold and Earl Little. Roger was at South and Earl was at North, and I mean, 2 phenomenal men. And it made my job easier when those men were at the middle school, because they would get them started, they would come to me. We got kids now that don't know how to read a tape measure. Okay, that's very, very scary. So starting young, to answer your question, it's imperative we start young. It's imperative that the listeners understand that this is good for all kids. This is good for the doctor, the lawyer, the nurse, you name it. Using your hands is only going to make you stronger. So we need to grow vocational education. People call it CTE. I call it vocational education. If it doesn't lead to a career that we have postings for, we don't need to be teaching it. There's so much shortage right now that our focus needs to be in filling those current gaps.
I remember my shop class in middle school. We had the lawnmower. We had to take the pieces out. You start here, you trailed it all the way to when every part was undone, and then you had to put it back together again. I did, and I had about 7 parts left. I decided right then, maybe chess club was a better way for me to go in my after-school career. At least they had an idea of, mechanics. This is how an engine works, and this is what is in that engine.
Exactly. Making a decision, living and dying by the decision you make, and seeing what the result is, positive or negative, is imperative.
Because if you're 14 or 15, you're probably making money back then, mowing yards. Right. It's interesting to know how, when mom and dad turn on that tap water, it's interesting they should know where that water comes from, the pumps that generate that water. When you flip on a switch, where's that electricity come from? What are we doing to get that?
We talk about taking the kids to Mars, but we got to stop and show them the U.S. before we leave the planet. So sometimes we dream way too big and we forget the basics, and we need to go back to just kind of more of a basic approach.
It's like pro sports. There's 1,696 athletes in the basketball league, and there's 1.5 million of them in high school.
Yeah. Right.
Only 1% of kids ever go pro. And how many people are going to walk on Mars? 10, 20? And there's 1 million, 2 million trying to do it. So, it's that upside down funnel. We need to get the funnel to be a tube.
Hey, Jeff, I want to just throw a couple of shout outs real quick. You asked about how we got this going. I kind of got a team together. I called Amy Story at the EDC. I called Kim Blum at the Chamber, and I talked to Samantha Morganroth at Doss Greenhouse. And I said, hey, we need to do this. And I went to Amy and I said, talk to me about employment data in the area. And she gave me really great information. And so I came up with this concept, and I kind of pitched it to them, and they said we're all in. And thank goodness to Samantha, she found Andrew Flippo in San Antonio, who's kind of been the key to getting this started. He handles this first phase of the whole program. And so I wanted to really shout out to them and thank them for all their support. And then Binky at the high school has been amazing putting it together, along with Dr. Kraft.
Got to give credit to Boerne ISD for supporting it. It's been a whole team effort. We're so happy, and the kids are extremely through the moon happy.
Well, I remember the day Governor Perry came down. He was very happy his truck was done, too. His dad's truck was done, too. That was amazing.
Right.
That's a whole other story.
There's some bigger news, too, that the state of Texas has come calling on our program, and would love to come talk about that, because
we'll do that.
That's a big deal.
That's a huge deal. I asked Michael, send me those phone numbers. I'm not going to wait for a press release for that. So
if you own a local business, get a hold of Michael Etheridge. Get behind this team, because, hey, more money at the end, you got even more motivated kids for them to be able to win.
Yeah, we need sponsors for our pitch night, and then sponsors for the phase 2 of the program, too.
Because we've all been in a business or been somewhere where there's been an employer or two that is less than enthusiastic to be there. You know, and we need to reverse that to where there's people who are so enthusiastic but can't get in because there's more enthusiastic workers in front of them.
Well, hey, thank you, Mr. Flinn, for having us on today.
Jeff, appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great weekend out there, and God bless. Bye-bye, folks.